Let us talk about the classifications of Indian knowledge system or IKS. So ancient texts, we classify those ancient texts in three segments. One is the basic part, next is the complementary, and another one is supplementary. The complementary text consists of 4 Upangas, and the supplementary text, those consist of 6 Vedangas. So then basic part are the Vedas. Now how many Vedas are there? There are 4 Vedas. One is the Rig Veda, next is Sama Veda, another one is Yajur Veda, and the fourth one is Atharva Veda. Complementary text or 4 Upangas. So those 4 Upangas are Ayurveda, Dhanur Veda, Gandharva Veda, and Artha Veda. In that Artha Veda comes one segment known as Silpa Samhita, that is called engineering. And Ayurveda is known as the medicine, and that is the medical part of the Vedas. Okay? And the supplementary texts are known as Vedangas. We have 6 different Vedangas. Next is that each Veda, each and every Veda, so there are 4 parts in each Veda. One is Samhita, next is Brahmanas, Aranyaka, and the last one is Upanishads. So Upanishads are the advanced part of the Vedas. That's why we call them as Vedantas. And Upanishads are a very rich text and a very authentic source to study about consciousness. And the Silpa Samhita, because again I am saying that our approach is more towards the engineering and medicine, so the Silpa Samhita is the part of the engineering. And there are 3 segments again. One is the Dhatu Khand or art science, another one is Vastu Khand or architecture, the last one is Sadhan Khand or transportation. So these are the 3 segments of Silpa Samhita or engineering. So what are the evidences? What are the evidences in ancient India about various branches of engineering? So there are 2 aspects. One is the Shilpa Shastra and another one is Ayurvedic Chikitsa. So Shilpa Shastra is the various branches of engineering. For example, Krishi, which can closely be related to biological engineering or agricultural engineering nowadays. Jala, that is water resource engineering. Next is Khani or mining engineering. Another one is Nauka. Nauka is water transport. Next is Rath. Rath is ground transport. Viman. Viman is aerospace. Vastu. Vastu is building architecture. Prakar. Prakar is the forts. Nagar Rachana is the town planning. And Yantra. Yantras are the machines. Ayurvedic Chikitsa, various branches of medicine are Kaya. Kaya Chikitsa, or we call it as internal medicine. Bala Chikitsa, which is similar to patriotic medicine. Next is the Graha Chikitsa, which is close to psychiatry these days. Urdhavanga, that is ENT and head part. Shalla Chikitsa consists of all surgeries. Damstra, that is toxicology. Jara Chikitsa, which is related to rejuvenation. And Varsa. Varsa is aphrodisiac therapy. So these are the various aspects of Ayurveda as well as Silpa Samhita. So the next pertaining question that comes to our mind is that why should we study IKS? What is the need to study about IKS? Let us consider that part. So modern science relies on observation and acknowledges the physical existence of nature, right? So modern science acknowledges, yes, there is a physical existence of nature and we are acknowledging it. Next is that, as per the modern science, nature is a separate physical entity. Human brain is another separate physical entity. But ancient Indian science, in contrast, they recognized a profound interconnection between the natural phenomena of the universe as well as what is going on inside our mind. So here it is not only talks about the brain, rather it is talking about the mind. So what is the connection between the nature and the human mind? This interconnection was established by ancient Indian science. Through spiritual experiences and practices, ancient sages concluded that the same universal laws that govern the nature and the human mind, establishing a harmonious relationship between the nature and the human mind. There is a harmonious relationship. One is complementary to another. So that's the relationship, and that was established by ancient Indian sages, and they reached to this conclusion not overnight. They did many years of sadhanas, and through their spiritual experiences and practices, they reached out to this goal. They referred this unified consciousness as Brahman in the Upanishads. So that is called Brahman in the Upanishads. Clear? Okay. Next is that what are the ultra modern day problems? Let us think about this, because we are emphasizing the question, why should we study IKS? Because if everything is going good in our today's society, then modern science is great. Modern science is very good when it comes to our physical comfort, making our life easier. But at the same time, modern day scientific discoveries, they created a lot of significant trouble to this universe. That could be addressed by knowing IKS, not only by knowing, but also by applying IKS for modern society. For example, number one, which you all are aware about, is a negative effect on climate. What are the two most significant aspects of the negative effects on climate? One is a sea level rise, and another one is loss of biodiversity, right? Now let me tell you a personal experience which I faced. So few months back, I think it was in September or October 2023, I went to a conference by United Nations, and it was organized by India, named Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam. There I met one person. His name is Mr. Tito, and he was the former president of a very small island nation named the Republic of Kiribati. And it is like in Australia, New Zealand, in those region, and it is a very small island nation. And he was the president, 3-time president of that country. Now he is the permanent ambassador of that country. He is a very down-to-earth person. So when in the United Nations Assembly, so he raised this significant question about carbon footprints. If we look at their nation, that is a small island nation, they have zero contribution in carbon emission, in carbon footprint of the world as compared to the advanced nations, right? But the problem is, whenever the sea level is rising, they are the biggest sufferer because of their geographical location. Because of their location, they are at a verge that country can go under sea level at any day, at any time, if the rise is too high. So that means they have a zero contribution, but they are the biggest sufferer. So that's number one. That's a huge problem of climate change. Next is the negative effects on human health because of modern science. One is currently we are having a lot of fatal diseases in terms of our heart disease, lung disease, etc. Not only that, mental illness, mental health crisis is another big challenge of modern society. So those are the negative effects on health. And what are the negative effects on the overall society? So overall negative effect on the society is degradation of human values. That is a huge problem if we consider as the whole society. So those are the ultra modern problems. Now, if I look at the few statistics, and though all these statistics are taken from good references and either from top journals or from top reports, etc. Number one, if left unchecked, climate change is projected to push 100 million people worldwide into extreme poverty. 100 million people worldwide into extreme poverty by 2030. So this number is not a matter of joke. Okay. Next is that malaria is anticipated to see a global increase of up to 5%, affecting over 150 million individuals. A rise of 1 degree Celsius in global temperature leads to a 6% reduction in global wheat production and a 10% reduction in rice yields. Again, as like alarming statistic. These factors will result in malnutrition affecting 10 million children by 2050. 10 million children by 2050. Air pollution causes 7 million premature deaths. 7 million premature deaths each year. The loss of biodiversity may lead to the highest mass extinction event in the past 65 million years. It is not 1-2 years, 65 million years. In the past 65 million years, the highest mass extinction event. In December 2020, 42% of US adults reported symptoms of anxiety and depression, reflecting a 31% increase compared to the data of 2019. I think it is one of the after effects of COVID. Like if you compare 2019 and 2020, there is a 30% increase in the symptoms of anxiety and depression. And all those references I am collecting from very authentic sources that you can see in my slide. One is the Mass General Hospital Health Bulletin. So like statistics on climate, etc. Again, Mass General Hospital is America's one of the top 3 hospitals, between top 3 to 5 range. Then another reference is Lancet Oncology, and Lancet is again probably the world's best publication company, like best journal when it comes to this type of medical statistics publishing. And another one is Science Advance. Again, this comes from the world top scientific journal, Science Advance. And the last one, Depression Anxiety, that is from Nature. Nature is again a very famous and reputed public journal. So now we discussed about the problems. What are the solutions? Can we get the solutions from our ancient root? The answer is yes. So it had been prescribed in our ancient scriptures about the possible solution. First possibility, number 1 way is the harmony with nature and the cosmos. We need to create a harmony between nature and the cosmos. That is number 1. Number 2 is the path of self-inquiry. We have to do self-inquiry to know who we actually are. In that way, we will be able to establish the balance between the nature and our mind. Human mind and the universal, so basically an individual soul and the universal soul. We need to establish that balance. That is the self-inquiry. Next is the path of dharma. Dharma is the path of morality, the path of righteousness. We need to approach any problems like this in the path of morality, the path of righteousness. That is called as the path of dharma. That's what was described in ancient Indian scriptures, in the ancient Indian knowledge system. Okay. So for example, few glimpses of medical science in ancient India. So the universal elements, we classify the universal element in fire, water, earth, air. Those are 4, and another 5, number 5 is the space. So these are the 5 classification of the universal elements. Now the question is, can we map these elements in our body? The answer is yes, we can map this element in our body. For example, Vata. Vata is the energy of movement. Okay, so as per Ayurveda, there are 3 body types. One is Vata, another one is Pitta, another one is Kapha. Vata is the energy of movement, Pitta is the energy of digestion and metabolism, and Kapha is the energy of lubrication and structure. Okay. Now the thing is that, like, what is the predominating Vata body type? So Vata body type is like combining space and air element. Their predominance is a Vata body type. What is Pitta body type? Pitta body type is mostly representing fire and water element, and Kapha body type is representing water and earth element. The Indian system of holistic medicine is called as Ayurveda, and Ayurveda tells us that the causes of any disease is what? The cause of any disease is nothing but the lack of proper cellular function due to an excess or deficiency. It can be excess of Vata, Pitta or Kapha, or maybe a combination of that. It can be in excess or it can be deficient. Like, so basically in one sense, there is an imbalance. So whenever there is an imbalance between this Vata, Pitta and Kapha, then there are some problem. And that problem shows up as a disease. Okay. So Ayurveda also talks about use of various herbs for treatment of cold inflammation, and those herbs can influence any of the doshas. So those herbs can influence either all the 3 doshas or one of the like predominating dosha which you need to take care of in that way. this is called the herbal medicines. So Ayurveda describes about the herbal medicines that we need for our healing purposes. So those are the overview of Ayurveda and few glimpses of medical sciences in ancient India. One specific example. So now let us take a specific example, and that has some similarity with my research as well. So if we think about bone cancer, so bone cancer is the third most common cancer among the teens in the United States. We call bone cancer as osteosarcoma or bone cancer. So in my slide you can see a photo of normal bone as well as a cancerous bone. So now the thing is that whenever we have a bone cancer, the only possibility that we need to do is that we need to take that part of the affected bone out and we need to replace it with some artificial implant or artificial scaffold which closely replicates the structure and function of the bone. And whenever we are doing it, so what we need to do is that, so either before doing that or after doing that, we need to provide chemotherapy. Because whenever we provide if we do not provide chemotherapy, then what will happen? There will be a chance of recurrence of the bone cancer. Now the thing is that, so many research are ongoing to see, we need to do the chemotherapy part, but is there any herb that has the potential to reduce the inflammation at the surgical site, and or like it can also help to reduce of the bone cancer part? Research is still ongoing, and one of the potential candidates could be curcumin from turmeric. So curcumin is the active component of turmeric or haldi. So it has a very good anti-inflammatory properties as well as a chemopreventive properties. Now what we need to do is that, so these are the properties prescribed in ancient scriptures about curcumin, its anti-inflammatory properties. Now what we need to do is that we need to find out that if we do a clinical trial, whether it is showing any positive effect among the patients or not. So basically in vitro lab trials shows that yes, curcumin has the potential of showing anti-inflammation. Curcumin has the potential of showing in vitro chemoprevention. Now the next question comes, can we translate it to pharmaceutical industries? So that question we need to do research, and I won't be surprised if we get a good possibility of doing so. Because a significant portion of my research was also to check how does curcumin behave in a biological scale in our lab. Now we need to see that how does it behave in cancer patients. But at the same time, we must remember that curcumin or turmeric is inherently a very hydrophobic molecule. So many researches are ongoing to make it hydrophilic. How to do so? We can do some liposomal formulation, we can do some metal complexation, or we can do some bioavailability enhancer. Because curcumin is a very poorly bioavailable in our body. Whenever we take curcumin, so a significant portion of that just get wasted. It is not well absorbed in our body. That's why we need to improve the curcumin's absorption, the bioavailability of curcumin, and that is a part of research, that how can we make oral formulations of curcumin, how can we make curcumin more bioavailable. That is another aspect of ongoing research. Here comes the application of IKS for modern medicine. Clear? I will also talk about few glimpses of engineering in ancient India. So basically regarding the engineering, so for example, if we consider the example of the iron pillar at Delhi. So the iron pillar of Delhi, so it has the anti-corrosive properties. So why it has anti-corrosive properties? There are two popular theories that explain the anti-corrosive properties of this iron pillar. One theory suggested that because Delhi's climate is not very humid, that's why it is showing anti-corrosive properties. But that theory was objected by another class of researchers, and they put an evidence, okay, Delhi is not that humid, that's why you were saying it has anti-corrosive property, but how about Odisha? Odisha is in the coastal zone and Odisha is way more humid as compared to Delhi. But if we look at the Sun Temple of Konark, we will find out there are also some evidences of this type of iron pillars there, which shows anti-corrosive properties. Then, one research group by Professor R. Balasubramaniam at IIT Kanpur, he was a great and very famous metallurgist who worked on this ancient Indian iron pillar. Their team found out that these anti-corrosive properties are due to the addition of phosphorus in that iron. Because whenever you make these iron pillars with the addition of phosphorus, that phosphorus creates a protective layer of phosphorus pentoxide, and that is the reason whenever there is a protective layer of phosphorus pentoxide on top of that, because of the presence of phosphorus, that's why air cannot penetrate, air water vapor cannot penetrate through that one, and since the water vapor is not penetrating through that layer, it is not creating any rust on the iron pillar. That was the reason behind the anti-corrosive properties. And just think that about at least more than 5,000 years ago, Indians discovered this novel technology. Another one I would like to mention is Vaimanika Shastra by Maharshi Bharadwaj. So Maharshi Bharadwaj's Vaimanika Shastra describes a lot of things about various aircraft design concept, like how would be the design, how will be the drawing of an aircraft system, how will that function, etc. Another interesting thing to note here is that if we look at most ancient Hindu temples, they place a metallic sharp edge structure like a trishul or a chakra along with some paddy grains, etc., and they put it on top of the temple. So what is the reason? What is the science behind it? Here the metal acts as a conductor and the paddy grains act as an insulator with a rough surface. This combination gives, so that means one conductor metal and another one insulator, the paddy grains. This gives rise to a very high value of capacitance. So whenever there is some thunderstorm, the bounty of charges strikes the metallic rods and percolates to the infinitely teeny paddy grains with high capacitance. And that's why this is the mechanism of a lightning arrestor or a thunder arrestor. So one is metallic part, another one is insulating part. It is making a capacitance, high capacitance value. So that was the fluid gimstes of engineering in ancient India. So one is from the metallurgical perspective, another one is from the aerospace perspective, and another one is from the electrical engineering and building construction perspective. Clear? Okay. Another interesting fact is that Agastya Samhita, if we read, so it provides the formula to construct an electric cell or battery. So Agastya Samhita, the text he wrote in the Agastya Samhita textbook, if we translate that, you can see this in the slide, if we translate that, it means that place a well-cleaned copper plate in an earthenware vessel, cover it first with copper sulfate and then with moist sawdust. After that, put a mercury amalgamated zinc sheet on top of the sawdust to avoid polarization. The contact will produce an energy known by the twins name Mitra Varuna. Water will be split by this current into Pranavayu and Udanavayu. A chain of 100 jars is said to give very effective force. That means the electrolysis of water. How can we generate current by using various types of electrodes? That is the formula of electric cell, that is number one. And another one is, it is also mentioned that a chain of 100 jar, that means a chain of batteries in the series, like how that can be used to enhance the overall current output. That's what is the Agastya Samhita. Okay, next is that, so that means Agastya Samhita also talks about, gives us the basic idea about construction of the electrical cells. Next is the science of consciousness. So this is the most advanced part in India, and you can see in my slide that India has achieved unparalleled breakthrough in consciousness engineering over the past 5,000 years. In ancient India, the study of cognitive science and consciousness was referred to as Atma Vidya, meaning the science of self or consciousness science. The Advaita philosophy asserts that consciousness is a unified and pervasive entity. So consciousness is a unified entity that was like asserted by the Advaita philosophy. Now modern science, if you look at modern science, they have recently started accepting through various theories that consciousness exists in all living being, which is different than a body-mind complex. For example, so if we consider it as body, mind and soul, so modern science, they used to consider the body-mind complex only, but now they have started understanding and they have started digging up these studies. This study is called as the cognitive science, and cognitive science is now telling that okay, that that consciousness exists in all living being. So they have started accepting this now, modern science. Now the next question comes: can AI build a conscious machine? Is it possible to build a conscious machine through artificial intelligence? Let us hypothetically assume that AI is able to build a machine which is conscious of its existence. The next question will come: will it deviate or will it contradict with the Vedantic principle of consciousness? The answer is no. Even if I hypothetically assume that AI, let's say after 50 years, so far AI cannot do that, but let's say after 50 years or 100 years, AI is like AI made it possible, even though it will not violate the Vedantic principle of consciousness, because Vedantic principle of consciousness tells us consciousness is only one unit and we all are the part of that unit. So consciousness is basically the reflection of light in the mirror, something that is illuminating the mirror, but it is not the mirror itself. Something that is illuminating the mirror, it is like the consciousness. So consciousness is there in all living entity, and there is only one unit of consciousness which is pervading the whole universe. We all are a part of that. So infinitive. So basically, if consciousness is infinitive, then I am also part of infinitive. XYZ person is also part of infinitive. So the whole consciousness is infinitive, and we all are the part of this. So we all are also infinitive. So that is the idea. That means infinitive plus infinitive equals to infinitive, or infinitive minus infinitive, that is also equals to infinitive. That's why even if AI reaches its highest level of discovery, it is not going to violate the Vedantic principle of consciousness. That's the message we should remember. Now there are various scientific theories about consciousness. For example, one is called as the integrated information theories, that is the IIT theory. It is not the Indian Institute of Technologies, but integrated information theory, IIT. The next is the global neuronal workspace theory, GNWT. And the last one is higher order thought theory, or HOTT. So these are the various theories which modern scientists have agreed upon and accepted to study about consciousness. But the good news is modern science has recently started appreciating the existence of consciousness. Previously it used to think that like whatever is within the body and brain system, it is the limitation, but it is not the limitation. Okay, and that's what is modern ancient India's contribution to the rest of the world. Now the question is how to merge with the ultimate reality or supreme consciousness. The supreme consciousness, we call it as Brahman, and now the question is there a way that we can merge, because supreme consciousness is a whole pervading unit and we are the individual consciousness as one unit. Can we merge these two? Is there a way that we can merge the supreme consciousness and an universe and individual consciousness? The answer is yes. So one way is called as the Bhakti. There are 4 ways prescribed in our scripture. One is called as the Bhakti Yoga. So Bhakti Yoga, Karma Yoga, Raja Yoga and Jnana Yoga. These are the 4 yogas. What is Bhakti Yoga? Bhakti Yoga is this selfless love and pure devotion to the God. Selfless love. So I love God without any expectation, because I feel that God will take care of everything. And this is the easiest path in modern times. Bhakti yoga is the easiest part. Okay, you brought me to this world. Now it is your responsibility to feed me. It is your responsibility to take care of me. Samarpayami. I am like giving everything. I am putting everything to your holy lotus feet. You take care of myself. That is called Bhakti Yoga. Next comes as Karma Yoga. Karma Yoga is this selfless service. That means when we are serving people, we are doing it without any expected outcome. Most of the time we think that if I am doing some good karmas, if I am doing some good work, in return I will get something. But that is not Karma Yoga. Karma Yoga means we are doing something without any expectation. That is our karma. That is the selfless service to the humanity. So as Swami Vivekananda told multiple times, that be a karma yogi. That means serve people without any selfish intention. That is karma yoga. Next is the path of Raja Yoga. Raja Yoga is the practice of meditation, path of meditation. You can sit, meditate, follow the practices prescribed in our scriptures, and that can also lead to enlightenment. And by that way also you can merge with the divinity. That is called Raja Yoga. And another one is called the Jnana Yoga. And many scholars, they consider this as the toughest path. Jnana Yoga is the path of knowledge. Like we are discussing scriptures, we are talking about different philosophies, consciousness, etc. And this is the path of knowledge. And most scholars consider this Jnana Yoga as the toughest among all these four different paths. And Bhakti Yoga is considered as the easiest. Raj Yoga and Karma Yoga are in the middle. So that is the beauty of ancient India, that our sages, they prescribed four different paths, and these four paths are suitable for people with different mindset. For example, if somebody is more toward the emotional side, and they want to submerge themselves in pure love and devotion, for them Bhakti Yoga is the best. Somebody who is more toward doing work, who prefers work over doing worship or any rituals and etc., for that person Karma Yoga is the good. Somebody who again prefers to practice meditations and all, for them Raja Yoga. And somebody who prefer discussion, intellectually they are very sound, philosophical discussion, spiritual debates, for them Jnana Yoga is the most suitable path. And nowadays many people, intellectual people specifically, they focus on Jnana Yoga, because Jnana Yoga is also, nowadays people are more focusing toward experienced based religion. Can I experience something? So Jnana Yoga is the path by which you are discussing something and you are gaining a higher knowledge, you are updating yourself. So these are the four paths, and that's why India was a leader, India is a leader, and India will be a leader in this consciousness studies. And that's all. That's today's take-home message. I hope that I gave a brief idea about Indian knowledge system. And if I want to summarize this talk, so the summary of this talk is that we started with different classifications of IKS. Then we showed, then we talk a little bit about medical aspects and what are modern research those has been done. Then the engineering aspects and few modern research in terms of the engineering aspect. And the last part is the consciousness studies or consciousness engineering and their consequences. A little bit of about those cognitive science research. And the last thing is that what are the different parts of yogas. So that's all from me, and thank you so much, and namaskar.